Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us, whoever's watching and whoever's going to watch later. I appreciate you taking your time. And, I want to start off welcoming Dr. Adam Christman. We're super excited to have him here with us to talk about some things. He suggested touching on a subject that I don't think is talked about too much, which is, the future of media and vet med and how we apply that as a tool to bring positivity and spread, a positive message out there and kind of reach out the community of the pet owners, but also maybe the people involved in vet med in general. So, we have Chris and David here as well supporting us. And I just kind of wanted to start by kind of obviously everybody knows who you are. So normally we're like, well, tell us about yourself. It's like I don't think people really have any questions on how great you've been for our field and how you're putting the word out there and really, I really enjoyed your Good Morning America appearance. I think because you seem very real and not like salesy, or you just seem kind of like very very honest and very like real about your advice. And I feel like that kind of made me ask you to come here, and I was super humbled that you said yeah. And that kind of started the whole thing. I shared with you a little bit. I know it's pretty popular, your article about your back surgery and your back problems. And my own wife had some issues with that. So I think that made me connect at a personal level. It's kind of like, hey, man, like we're more similar than we think in this world of vet med. And I would really want to sit down and talk for an hour with our group and kind of chat about some things. And then when you brought up the future of media, I kind of thought it was perfect because I feel like that's kind of what FlareVet's trying to be. And then, having somebody like you on here to kind of teach us a little bit of what you learned and tell us about your experiences and that. When you suggested the topic, what were you thinking? I just was curious about that.
Well, I think that veterinary medicine in the media has like long been painted with just one brushstroke, the cute pet story. And I think having myself and our colleagues come together, whether it be through social media or mainstream media, to kind of elevate and educate the public, not just pet owners, but everyone about what we do. We're surgeons. We're there for you through crossing your pets over to the Rainbow Bridge. We work in public health. We help protect the public. We work with the food chain supply, large animal medicine. So there's so many different facets of what we do in veterinary medicine that I don't think mainstream media shows enough of what we do. They show the cute little kitty that got stuck in the sewer drain, or little ducklings that couldn't cross the road. But on the other side of that camera are us, the veterinarians that are taking care of them. And so I think that's why I really wanted to chat about those things, because I think all of us are doing great work in the profession on social media, but even in the mainstream media, we got our work cut out for us.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. How I think the eyes are out there waiting for us to communicate all of that too. I
Yeah.
think the people are wanting to hear our story. And I think it's our responsibility to kind of make presence and advance the field in a positive way. And what one of the things that we talk about a lot in FlareVet is mental health and how we need to support people's mental health. And I think that part of our responsibility is to support that. And how do you think the media, social media, or any of these groups that are coming up, how should we be presenting the importance of mental health in being a veterinarian, how that affects our overall goal, which is treating pets and having success in medicine? How would you link the media, mental health, and the actual work, and how it impacts what we're doing?
Thanks for talking about this. And yes, we have a huge work cut out for us. I'll share this with you. When I was in Good Morning America in the green room, I was talking to a couple of the anchors there, and one of the guests coming on the show was talking about mental health for the new year. What are some things that they can do? Any person can do to help make sure that their mental health is good for 2025. And I was talking about veterinary medicine. Did you know that it is one of the, unfortunately, one of the biggest professions that can have some mental health issues? They had zero idea. I mean, when I tell you, when I was at the green room and they were all tuned in and captivated, like leaning in and like, what do you mean? And then I start riffing on the reasons why. They had zero idea, no clue about it. They said, well, my gosh, I just thought like this is what they do. And I had to put my dog down. They tell me these stories and they're like, oh, I'm sure they just go into the other room. I said, but they're in the car on their way home, sitting in their car. Maybe that is one of maybe 7 or even 10 euthanasias that they deal with on top of other things that we're talking about. So,
Right.
long story short on that, no, mainstream media, I think, has very little clue. And I'm working really hard to bring that to the surface because I think it should be brought to the surface. Social media wise, it's done very well. I really think it's done very well with my colleagues and veterinary technicians, practice managers, even our industry partners that work in vet med. They recognize it. They either sponsor education, either at conferences and a podcast. So I do think it's great for the future veterinary professionals to see where we're at and where we're heading with that. So I'm very, very proud to say that my fellow veterinarians and techs out there, they do a great job on social media educating us. And another example that I'll share is when I go live on social media, I tend to go live on TikTok. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been going live on TikTok almost every night
Okay.
for 5 years.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay. I don't.
Almost every
I'm
night.
I'm kind of old, right? I consider myself old. They
I'm
call me
older
a
than you.
boomer.
Trust me.
No, I know, but listen, I they call me the boomer at my last clinic, right? And that kind of stuck with me. So
Yeah.
I have this barrier with TikTok. I have a mental barrier of like, when should I join? When should I download it? Like, is it gonna like is FlareVet gonna be the reason I do TikTok? Like what kind of impact are you having in TikTok? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, who knows what the future of TikTok holds, as we know, right? Some things that might be bought to another, platform, but currently I'm sitting at 1.1 million followers on TikTok, and I
Wow.
have gone live. Thank you. I've worked hard in cultivating and building a community there, and part of that is going live and interacting with them. You can't get that on a
Interesting.
Netflix show.
Yeah.
You can't see that
Yep.
on mainstream. If you have a question about your pet, what do? You email the producer to see if you get your question asked. Not on
Right.
TikTok.
Right.
I will answer your question in real time, right then and there
That's
about that.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing, and I think that's what people are looking for nowadays. They're looking to connect with the people. Technology has taken us to a place where, like, look at what we're doing right now, right? Like, we can connect so much easier. So getting that information directly from the people is really super valuable, and that's what we're
right.
trying to do with FlareVet too. To hopefully, as we get more people involved, that there's going to be people joining us live, asking questions and things like that. So I think that interaction in person, live in person, it's really the future, really, of what
Yeah,
people are looking for in media.
it really is. It really is. And everyone loves learning about animals. Let's just like talk about pets are universal. They cut through politics, demographics, culture. They don't care who you love. They don't care the color of your skin. All they care about is that unconditional love. And to each pet, there is a human story associated with it. And that's what I love when I'm talking to pet owners about this. It's the connection that we feel with our pets, which is so powerful.
I actually
Right. Well, here's Bill. He's joining Dr. Bill Tancredi
sorry.
joining us today. I guess he has some unimportant childcare duties to take care of. That kind of thing that doesn't matter, right?
For a unpunctual kind of day.
It's just part of life, huh?
Yeah.
I'm
not so good with the primates. Doing the medicine on the primates. Well,
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's a different level of mentality at that point. We're dealing with the higher species.
yeah. Well, higher is a relative term. It's 18 months. Isn't that? I'm
Getting
sorry
there.
to interrupt. It looked like David had a question.
I did, but we're so enthusiastic. I didn't get a chance to get it in. I also don't use TikTok, Dr. Christman, but I'm looking at your TikTok now, and it's mixed with a man in a suit, and then a bunch of informal chats. Right, you're talking to pet owners. I'd love to just hear you too about how your brand. What kind of engagement do you get back from pet owners with that? Are you getting engagement back? And then what can other veterinarians learn about that? Taking out before we went live, we were talking about how vets take off their Superman coats and go sit on the couch like us pet owners. Talk a little bit about how that helps when you just break down. I'm no longer a man in a suit. I'm actually a person like you.
Thank you for noticing that, because that is exactly my brand. Is
Yeah.
that I feel more of Adam Christman when I'm not in a lab coat or when I'm in scrubs, when I'm in my gym clothes, and when I'm just at home relaxing, just like all you other pet owners out there. I feel like I can connect better with you. And at first, when I feel like, oh, shit, when I'm posting these videos, does it matter? It depends on the type of content, of course, because that's where you see some differences, whether I'm working with a brand partner and they will make recommendations. But for the most part, like, I'm in my backyard, I'm in the front yard, I'm hanging out with the dachshunds, or I'm at the store showing things that I find in the supermarket, just as a friendly reminder about grapes and raisins. And they'll ask me like, how long in advance do you plan? I'm like, oh, about 5 seconds. And I grab my phone. This looks
Exactly.
good.
Yep. But that's authentic. That's the authenticity that people want to connect with nowadays.
Yeah. Yes. The more you think about something, the more scripted it becomes, the less you'll connect, obviously, you can always edit certain things, but just sharing your story and saying, hey, this is what works for me. This is my experience. This may work for you. And the other thing that some veterinarians will get concerned is like, oh, well, you can't diagnose over, a live TikTok. And I'm not expecting to do that. And I always preface that, like, I'm not diagnosing. The call to action is always to the profession. My number one thing, this is anyone that's interested in doing brands or social media or anything, number one thing that you're going to ask yourself is, will I make my profession proud? Will I do my profession justice by posting this video, or will it do
100%.
harm? Right?
Yep.
If you have any inclination that like, oh, someone's going to get a little pushback, one is be prepared for that. That's not my brand.
Yep.
I choose to be like the Switzerland of veterinary medicine. I want to keep it nice and simple, and that's okay. But if you want to be edgy, be prepared to have some edgy pushback every now and then, and that's fine.
100%. Yeah.
But for the vet med world, I always want to make sure I do us well, and I also make pet owners proud too.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, sometimes being reserved shows that you're being reserved, and that might take away from your message a little bit. So now, if you're gonna kind of put your toe in the water of something that might be a little bit, contradicting somebody, or you need to wait and be ready for that person to come back at you. Like I for example, I did a post with Mike Tyson, where I visited a place where you could meet him and stuff, and it was more about being a champ, right, and being the best you can be, and I was ready for the whole like negative sides of it, right? But I think when you're trying to send the message out and you focus on the things that matter to you and the things you need to portray, you have to be ready for the sides that are not going to be very popular, but there's reasons that you're trying to overcome those things as well, right? Like if you have a opinion on telemedicine, and you're strong about it, and you're kind of like very, very strongly against it, be ready for pushback, because it's going to be kind of like something that people will be pushing for. And the purpose is not to battle each other or see who's right. It's to have a discussion and find the positives, the negatives, and maybe make a decision as a profession,
Our differences is what unites us. And I firmly believe in that. And I think it has to be healthy, respectful bantering. I hate to say that, I hate the hate word, but nothing grinds my gears more than to see, this hasn't happened often, but I see it every now and then when veterinarians drag other veterinarians under the bus, and in social media world, no one wins. No one wins when that happens. Yeah. That's number one. Number two is, this is a huge pet peeve of mine. This is my number one pet peeve. If you want to ask Adam Christman, what is your biggest pet peeve in social media? It is this. I do not like when veterinary professionals make fun of pet owners. Like, they go into the voice of a pet owner. They'll say, oh, he's been vomiting for several days. We get it. We know it's there. No need to amplify the message, because the amount of messages that I get in my DMs from pet owners that say, I don't want to see you, the veterinarian, anymore, because we're afraid you're going to make fun of us. And no one wins.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing.
I guess, trying to be positive overall and put a good face out there and kind of try to be authentic, but also be aware of like who's out there listening, right? And how you're gonna
Right.
impact those people. Yeah.
You could easily do edgy by being diplomatic and respectful. And I just did a video not that long ago about the brachycephalic dog breeds. Now, I know it's the #1 most popular dog breed out there is a French Bulldog. And we all know as veterinary professionals the health risks associated with it. But I worked really hard to be intentional with my words, to be respectful to breeders, and to make sure that we are not creating, me personally, I don't want to be edgy, but I want to educate to like, listen, know before you go. This is what you're signing up for when you're going to have a type of dog, especially the one that I was talking about with the rope one over the nasal planum. Just know. And then also to those tuning in, if you're a breeder, be a responsible one, because what you're giving us, the veterinary professionals, can be a lifelong of heartache for both us and unfortunately the pet. So again, done very respectfully, not attacking, not accusing, just educating.
Right. And I think once we have that trust from the people who are listening, then we can be a little more, you know, authentic and real. And once we have that connection, then they can trust what we're saying better. And maybe it might sound a little less negative and less like an attack and more like advice, or more like, you know, like I mean well, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and as somebody, I can say this as somebody who doesn't pull a lot of punches and doesn't shy away from the conflict and that kind of stuff. Like I am not, I have no, you know, natural inclination or ability to be Switzerland. So I've just decided not to be. But I think one thing that helps even in those really heated issues is to make sure you're talking about the issues and not the person.
Mm-hmm.
You can have really strong feelings about the brachycephalic dog, you know, about the breed, about the health issues, without saying the breeders are rotten people, or the owners are irresponsible, or the vets who take care of them are terrible, or, you know, like you can say these are serious health issues without saying anybody involved with them is part of the problem, right? Like you can condemn the problem without condemning the people.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's really helped. Like even, you know, I have made a lot of friends through bitter disagreements that I vehemently disagree with with you know their stance on something, but we'll still hang out and laugh and share a joke, and we're still on the same team. You know, we're colleagues who disagree. We're not opponents.
Right.
I think sometimes you learn the most from people you disagree with, and you finally realize that maybe you don't disagree as much, right? And that's part of those conversations that we need to have, like this one we're having now, right?
Yeah.
So I did a poll the other day about like what people are tuning into for the latest in VetMed, and you know, Dr. Bill pretty much said all of it. You know, I feel like somebody like him, you know, he always wants to know the most
I am
out
a consumer.
there.
Yeah, I just want all the things. Yeah,
everything. I don't know if Dave and Chris, did you guys vote on what you look at for the latest VetMed stuff? Or
I didn't. I actually, you know, I'm in industry, and I did a similar poll when I was trying to launch a product a long time ago, and most people were LinkedIn is not the source, by the way. That's where I go for information. Most vets don't. They're doing some social media, but my experience said most of they still get from peers, and they don't really consume a lot of media. But that was a couple of years ago, and I'd love to. But Chris, you go first, and then I'd love to hear Dr. Christman's perspective on where they're consuming data from.
I'm essentially consuming data from LinkedIn as well. And then, at least from my side of the business, from the marketing side of the business, I find that most of the information isn't shared publicly. When people are having challenges, a solo vet, a solopreneur has very different challenges than someone who has 3 or 4 people in their clinic. And their needs are very different as well as far as their marketplace is concerned. So I go to LinkedIn to find out what the veterinarians are having difficulties with, but really, like Bill can attest to this, like we just have some really good chats about, hey, look at, these are the challenges, this is the problem that I'm facing, okay, let's go and address this. There's not a broad brush that you can say, hey, look at Google Ads, fix all your problems. And I feel like that's kind of misinformation that's across the industry, and it's conveyed that way across LinkedIn, I find, and I don't necessarily find that accurate. But in general. And honestly, John, I don't know if I got your poll or not. One of my grinds about LinkedIn is that you and I have talked about this. Whatever they
Yeah.
did to the algorithm, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, you and I are connected. We communicate in private chat regularly on LinkedIn, and you'll put a post up. You'll even tag me in it, and I won't get it for
Yep.
2 or 3 weeks. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
weird.
I'll see the 3 week mark in your post. Like, wow, okay, good to know. A month ago, like we're dealing with AI that gets better daily, and now we're seeing posts 3 weeks away. So, it's a little bit of a disconnect. I agree, but I guess
Yeah.
my point too is when I looked at the numbers, a big chunk was still magazines, and of
Sure.
course that DVM 360
I read
and
DVM
it's
360.
probably
Yeah.
it's one of the most read ones, and
It's
with all
also
the
physically the
internet.
biggest, right? Like it is.
You know it.
It is.
Yeah,
Like, it is
yeah, it's like,
literally the
here it
largest
is.
magazine I receive.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's the DVM 360,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like I was very shocked that such a big percentage is still from magazines, right? Even though we have all this technology, all this daily changes, and I wanted to ask Dr. Christman, like, why is that? Why do you think people are with all the technology, all the seminars, all the peers, like we've said before, why are people still wanting to read the paper magazine? I think that's pretty. I'm curious about that.
I think we're embedded from school, to read from textbooks and to learn from magazines. I think as veterinary professionals, we're trained to be scientists, and when we see something in the journals and in the publications, it kind of validates things a little bit more, like credibility, I would say. That's what we find at DVM 360. We have a very massive readership across the country, and they're hungry for the knowledge, and the feedback that we get from the articles, like the one that you were talking about, the one I posted, was really interesting. But they like to, I don't know if there's something to be said about physically going through a magazine and turning the pages. Some will actually tear them off and either hang them in their office, or there's some PDFs that you can print off too for your break rooms for receptionists or SOPs. So I think there's something to be said about that. The other thing I was just going to mention, if you don't mind, I was going to say, the way we digest information, in my experience, is generational for sure. I think your Gen Z, without a doubt, TikTok. Gen Z is getting a ton of information from TikTok. I haven't even had the data to show that. Actually, I'm giving this lecture coming up at VMX about it. And TikTok is where a lot of Gen Z veterinarians are getting good information, video content information. Like I just learned how to unblock a cat a new way yesterday through TikTok. I was like, this is amazing video. So that's where they're getting a lot of their. And then most of it is also through Instagram and LinkedIn, of course, too. But TikTok video format is where the education is for a lot of the newer graduates.
And that's interesting you say that, because we're about to meet with some students from Oklahoma State and have a session, and we're trying to be very strong on the student side of things and the new generations, and obviously we want to create the most impact possible. And
yeah, you kind of have to meet them where
interesting. You need to start TikTok then.
Yeah. Adam, I have a question for you. I'm very much in the still, I think my means of consumption and production is still like a long form essay, which makes me even older than the millennial that I am. But I like somebody like you who, is a thought leader and opinion maker, somebody that everybody kind of looks to, the industry looks to as, to what's next. Where do you go? Like, what informs your opinions? Is it industry publications? Is it industry figures? Is it people Is it, do you read JAVMA? Do you read The Economist? More than where do you go that is informing your opinions about these things?
I don't know. No, I'm
like, I'm not telling you that.
I make it up.
No,
it takes me 5 seconds.
Yeah.
No, so the way that which we gather information, because I'm fortunate enough to work at a media company for DVM 360, so we have a lot of opportunities to see where things are coming in. Conferences, big time.
Yep.
Connections is number 2. And community is number 3. So those are my 3 C's, is what I say: conferences, connections, and community. Because see what like the Facebook groups are talking about, like any of those kinds of avenues. And then within those conferences, of course, I always throw in the publications because, sometimes I'll throw out some of the latest from, AVMA, for instance, or other journals. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of it. I'm so fortunate enough to say that that your network is your net worth, right? Your network is your net worth. And my network is so powerful that they'll send me a DM or send me a text message of like, hey, did you check out this article? Or this is in the pipeline, heads up, you're going to want to like hear about this. So that really helps fuel me. And then I'm obsessed with vet students and the vet schools. So I love seeing how are they learning, what's new in the pipeline. So it's a combination of those big 3 C's is what I would say.
So how are they learning? So you think TikTok has come out with good information now, and students have been really paying attention to that as well? Or because when I was a student, what was out was Vin. Vin was new, right?
Yeah,
it was like, whoa, right? So I feel like that sets the stage of what people are going to be doing in their careers, because I still go to Vin, and I have since I've been a student. So you think that trend's going to continue with like, TikTok is the new thing, so people into their career are going to keep doing that throughout their careers? Like, is that something that you might see coming up?
Yeah, I think video content is going to be the alpha for sure. And I think certain individuals do a really good job within the industry. I think Ignite is a great example where they got all that great video content that's there. I think having that some form of format on some learning platform, LMS system, is what a lot of these veterinarians are looking for, because it's quick, it's easy, it's digestible. Sometimes I can't even sit through a TikTok video for 2 minutes, let alone, right?
Whoa.
So
yeah, that's true.
I was just talking to someone yesterday about the publication. They wanted to, do their whole peer-reviewed study and post it. They're like, well, we're not getting any traction. I was like, you're not going to. You're not going. If you could summarize it up in, under 800 words, and I call it a home run. If people want to look at the data and the granular stuff, of course they can go to it, right?
But that's my question. Like, how do you link those two? Like, I might see a video. I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah.
But like, if I see that video, like, do you link the study, the sources, that kind of stuff in it?
Yes.
Like, so if you're on TikTok, you link the DVM 360 article about it.
I go like this over my shoulder, you like click here to learn more, or you could put it in Linktree, for instance, in profile. So, you got to have the hook and the headline is what we always learn about, hook and a headline. And then that's where it could drive them to the traffic to see more about it. And of course they can go to the study themselves to learn more about it.
But because I love to do those deep dives, right? Like, I love to really dig into something, especially when we're talking about medicine.
Yeah.
And like, so you want to get stuff out there, and then what? Like, then what's next? And
right.
Like, link the study, link the Linktree.
Link the study. And another thing that we need to learn more of, and this is something I need to learn more of too, is how to read this studies a little bit more. Sometimes we forget how to read the papers. And when somebody said, I was just talking to a colleague of ours last week, and she was teaching me, because I said, well, this had one study. She's like, did you really read the study? It's not validated. I said, oh my God. And she was walking me through that. I was like, that's something that we need to learn more of. There's a couple of our colleagues that are doing a really good job at conferences on literally like how to read a journal article. And, and to your point, so I feel like
I have to relearn statistics every time I read a study.
Yeah.
Like, I have to go back in and do it every time.
Right. I just know what a p-value is, less than 0.05, and that's it. That's my.
Here's what's the difference between specificity, sensitivity, LR, the LR plus, the LR net minus, and the positive predictive index. Like, these are all really important things to know. And honest to God, I think I have to do it. I have to wiki it every time I read a new article.
Yes.
I go to the conclusion. I'm like, okay, right, next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've all treated patients that way, right? Like, we've all treated patients off a paper that had an N of 6 because it was the only paper out there. Right.
True.
Like, we don't, like, Human Med has like mountains of data on lots of things, and we're just like, okay, I've got one paper on fly biting, out of 6, 1 dropped out, and this is what I'm going to do, right? Like, this is what I got.
I think if it's really what you want to do, you find the one paper, you back yourself up, and you're happy, right?
And you inform the owner, you're like, yep, rub a rosary, and we'll take our chances.
And I think this is what differentiates us as veterinary professionals versus pet owners, where by no means not dissing them by any means, but we kind of have that scientific lens, because when things get seen on social media of death and anecdotal reports of don't give your dog or cat this because it's going to kill them, we have that lens to look at the safety and efficacy profiles of what we're administering and the why behind the medicine. And so, yes, there could be things that are being reported here and there. And that's why we always say, make sure you contact the manufacturer, you contact the company, so that way we can document these things versus blasting it everywhere on social media, freaking everyone else out. No one wins that way, So, but you bring up a really good point on how important it is to, if you're going to be a subject matter expert in the social media space, make sure you have the science to back up what you're saying.
And I think that's why the authenticity part comes in, right? It's not just personalities on TV. These are like you, Dr. Christman. You have a career in practicing, and that really backs up the trust in what you're saying, and maybe the pet owners out there don't really know a lot of that, but it really helps with that side of it that whoever's questioning is like, well, no, I'm this is not an ad. This is based on medicine that I've practiced,
Right. I'll share with you a great story, because this is exactly why mainstream media needs to do its job. And I'll call them all out, because they all need to do a better job with raising veterinary medicine. I was on set, not for this segment, but I was watching it go down because there was a quote pet expert that was on, and it was talking about the most, number one most popular dog breed, which is the French Bulldog. So they wanted to make the set to have this French inspired theme. So they're having baguettes there. They had a tablescape. It was beautiful. Then they brought out tons of grapes everywhere. And they thought it was beautiful to do. And they brought out 4 French Bulldogs on set. And I happened to see this, and I was like, no.
No.
So like, why? And obviously we know how toxic grapes are. They had no idea. And so again, another great example of why our message is not reaching the masses then, evidently, because they should know that. Wait, hold up. We know that grapes and raisins should not be on set when we have French Bulldogs here. So it's just a great example, again, about if you're going to have a subject matter expert, make sure they are either, true to their credentials and whatever it be, because certain things just do not fly. I'll tell you that.
Well,
that's interesting.
One thing I'd like to speak to authenticity here is, I've actually spoken at some of your fetch conferences, Dr. Christman.
Yes.
And for anybody who's watching, like, he really is that nice to all of his staff. Like, he knows everybody's name. He, like, even when nobody's watching or he thinks nobody's watching, like, you are genuinely that decent. I think your staff would run into a burning building for you. Like, they would follow you into battle. So from like a leadership perspective, I really admire that. But also,
thank you.
That persona you have, like that brand you have, is authentic. It is the real thing. Like you live it. It is who you are. And it's nice that I think it's really wonderful that has taken you far, because I think you're one of the good guys in vet med. So to see you be successful is like it's really uplifting for the rest of us.
We're all rooting for you.
I think you're doing it right, and you're not doing it just when you're on stage.
Right. Thank you.
And like I mean that sincerely. Like I've seen it, and it's the real thing. So
I appreciate that. I am so exhausted when I come back from these conferences, but my heart is so full, because it's like wedding planning, and I want to make sure everybody is okay. Making sure my team is okay, the attendees are good, and I'm really in tune to everything. Industry partners, the faculty, there are VIPs. Make sure everybody's good, and it really warms my heart. It is what you see is what you get with me. I chose kindness. I chose to live a life of being my authentic, unapologetic self, and it really resonates. I got to give a shout out to my mom and dad. I mean, they're no longer here with me, but they gave me the skills that I am of who I am today, and mentorship matters too. And thank you for noticing that, because no one really said that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean it sincerely. I it's something that you don't get to say about yourself, but I get to say about you. So
I feel like this is shocking, because we don't get to see Bill's side, this side of Bill too often either. So I feel like wait, what?
Bill.
What? I feel like I'm dreaming this. This is not the real episode, is it?
I admire great leaders. I noticed that
No,
kind
no,
of stuff.
it's
It's important to me. I try to emulate that kind of thing. I
Yes.
really do.
no,
And
no,
like
me too.
and they're sincerely well-run conferences too. Like I've
Thank you.
been at a bunch of conferences, and like yours are really well run.
Dr. Christman, I want to ask a something. So different question, kind of nostalgic memory lane, thinking about DVM 360. We used to covet the back page of that for ads. And you've been hearing John here about Vin, but I want to see if you can help us predict the future of veterinary medicine. And part of what I'm thinking about is on human medicine, the peer-to-peer channel is pretty strong, or at least used to be, with sites like Doximity, where they post and they get case management and they talk to each other. Do you see the world where in veterinary medicine we're going to build these robust systems, the VIN-like systems to communicate, or are veterinarians going to learn, like you did through TikTok, how to do I think you said unblock a cat?
Obstruction. Yeah.
Is there a place in the middle, or where do you see us going in veterinary medicine?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. I think it's here to stay. Definitely, the peer-to-peer, like what Vin does, is very, very powerful. And the fortune of our parent company that owns DVM 360, we have 56 verticals, and the other 55 are all human. So oncology, pediatrics, ophthalmology, dentistry. It's all the same in terms of education with that. The peer-to-peer is number one, without a doubt. So I think it's important. Thank you for recognizing that, because it's nice to have the healthy bantering back and forth. Like Bill was saying, we agree to disagree, and that's okay. But that's how we move forward, to understand, appreciate each other's differences. So I think that platform is never going to go anywhere, wherever that peer-to-peer may be, without a doubt. I think it's one step further is the collaborative care component. So having the internist with the generalist and even the VTS or veterinary technician in that discussion, because a teamwork-based approach to veterinary medicine is what we're seeing a lot more of. And so I feel like there's going to be a rise of that. And the last thing that I'll say to this component is I will predict that there will be pet owners involved in this. There will be somebody that has went through chemotherapy with their dog with lymphoma that's going to be on a panel to share best practices of what that looked like. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, because owners are so bought in and so educated now about what it is. They want to be part of moving veterinary medicine further. So there's going to be a lot more bantering with pet owners at some point too.
Yeah, and that's an example. Dave's an example. I know he helps a lot with the technical parts of it, but I like his perspective as a pet owner all the time, and because we need that perspective of what we look like to the people that are caring for what we're treating. Like the pet owners are such a big part of our team.
If I could add, and Dr. Christman, I appreciate you bringing the pet owner in, because I've been in the industry over 20 years. It's only been the past couple of years I've been putting my pet owner hat on and talking as a pet owner. And part of it is because the care team requires the veterinary team, the pet, and that pet owner all to be in collaboration. And in those closed systems, I understand why Doximity and Vin would, case management, I don't need to be involved in the details, but it's nice to be involved in the conversation, at least at some point. So I appreciate you looping
I
us.
also think the last few years, especially, like you talk about your pet owner hat, but the last few years in practice, I've noticed that pet owners seem to be much more interested in maybe like not negotiating it, but like being involved in the decision, wanting to understand more of them, thinking like 10 years ago, I was like, do this. And they'd say yes or no. And like, that was that. Right now they're like, well, shouldn't we try this? And even if they're like, they're not medical professionals, sometimes like, oh, shouldn't we try a higher dose of the antibiotic? Like, no, but I'm glad you asked, right? Like,
But Bill, don't you think that's part of like why like media is so present now and bringing information to owners, and the owners are taking that in and bringing it to you
insight,
and me, right?
Like the fact that they're more willing to speak up and have those questions answered, even if like, no, that's not how we do it, but I'm like, I'd rather them say it to me and have me say like, oh no, this is why we do it this way instead of that way, than not bring it up, right? And like have their give me the opportunity to answer their questions.
And instead of pushing back, I feel like some vets push back to that. Like, I'm the vet, I decide what happens here. I embrace that. The owner is interested and he wants to know why, or she wants to know why we're doing what we're doing, and if there's options.
Much more engaged.
I love that.
I always say that the pet owner is truly in the driver's seat and we're in the passenger seat, and our car is our hospital of team driving to make the best decisions for your pet. And
I give advice. I don't give orders.
right? Because at the end of the day, they're
Yep.
the ones that have the credit card, the purses, and the wallets, and we want to make sure that they're bought in. And so asking these questions, and sometimes I'll say to the new graduate, because like, God, there's so many things that they want to cover. I say to them, ask this question. Like, I know we have 20 minutes together. What are we hoping to achieve together by the end of this appointment? Let's focus on what we can really
That's
matter.
great.
That's
right.
The magic trick question is, what are we hoping to get out of today's appointment?
Right.
Like, they'll just tell you. Like, you don't have to
100%.
guess. You don't have to
Yes.
blunder into it. They're like, I want to, really know what's going on. I want to, and you're like, okay, let's the diagnostics. Let's get into it. Let's not be conservative.
A new thing that I have done too, and anyone tuning in, if you're not doing this is a great idea. And I got to give a shout out to Dr. Sue Ettinger, cancer vet, who gave me this idea. And then, of course, yours truly takes it one step further, is that when you ask about the caregiver, because as an oncologist, sometimes it's either somebody that's bringing the dog or cat in that's not the true caregiver. So she asks, like, are you the primary caregiver of this dog? And they'll say no. And so what she'll do is she records her messages. But I take it one step further. I record with a video. I go, hey, Mom, so sorry you can't make it today, but let me show you what we're doing today. This is why I want to recommend that dental cleaning. I want to flip the lip. Do you see that tooth there? See how it's mobile? I don't know what's going on below that gum line. So I want to get a dental cleaning done. We're going to send you home with some antibiotics or whatever it is that we're doing. That way they could see that versus nothing grinds all of us on this call. We know when they call back 20 minutes later, what did Dr. Christman just say?
Oh, man.
Makes me want to clench my pearls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I always it's like, listen, I have this one client who's for years always gotten to the end of the conversation and then called his wife and asked me to repeat everything. So
that's the worst.
now it's a running joke with him when he comes in. I'm like, just call her now, put her on speakerphone.
Yeah. Let's FaceTime right now.
I don't
it
mind,
looks like
just one time.
Looks like Chris. Sorry, Bill. It looks like Christy has a question here for Dr. Christman. So Christy Cornelius, I don't know if you know her or how well. I know we kind of know each other somehow in the field, but she kind of helped me get inspired and starting this whole FlareVet thing, with an initial conversation we had about how do we create impact? How do we get the message out there? Kind of like how we started this, session in terms of how do we reach the people that we need to reach, not only owners, but also members of the VetMed community. And she's asking about what are the best or the most important ingredients in building a community. And I think she means in general, but how does that apply to VetMed too? What's the most important parts in building a community?
So the number one thing is storytelling. So if you want to build your community, you got to storytell. And some of us are good storytellers. Some of us are not as good, and that's okay. You can work on that. There's plenty of content out there to learn how to do it. Why is that important in building your community? Because it's relatable. There's going to be something that somebody's going to find in you, or they're just going to find the way in which you're telling that story is going to really make an impact. For instance, I have dachshunds. And I have gone through intervertebral disc disease every time. And no matter how many times I go through it, it breaks my heart. I'm a crying mess. And I share that story and I talk about that. And I said, oh my God, the veterinarian hat comes right on off. I go right into pet owner. Nothing's more scary to see my dog down in the back end. And so by building that community of storytelling and realizing, my gosh, you're a trusted voice, you're human, you're also a pet owner. That's really important to storytell. The second component to that is by engaging within your community. Depending on what platform or what you're trying to achieve, you want to make sure that you give some value to them. So for instance, it could be something as simple as like, I can't find a veterinarian in my area. Well, let me help you find that offline. I'll be happy to do that. Send me a DM. Let's see what we can find for you. Trying to give something, because we want instant gratification. We live in a society now where we want something right away. So by you really focusing in and laser focusing on a couple of questions in that community, they're like, oh my God, like Dr. Christman answered my question. That's amazing. So that's kind of like how you build this momentum.
Right.
On TikTok, you have something called moderators that are in your room. I have about 20 of them that are in there. These are my VIPs to the infinity power. If somebody was to say anything negative about me or just to be supportive, they got my back 100%. And that's what you ultimately want to achieve. You want to, in business, they say 20% of your clients and vet med make up for 80% of your revenue or your clients, of what you could do. Same thing goes in the social media space. All it takes is just a few cheerleaders to have 20% of them in your community that could be your brand advocate and your voice for you, and they can amplify your message. You're going to want to check out Dr. Smith because she's got some really great content heading your way. And that's how you really build your community, is just keep it going and going.
And support each other, right? And the
Yes.
whole common purpose, I think finding that common purpose, and then if there's a little disagreement, a little problem here and there, it's okay. That's normal. But focus on that common purpose, positivity, creating, an impact that will reach the trenches, and it's gonna elevate our field. The little petty things that we shouldn't be focusing on that too much.
No, and collabing too. Nothing's better than a good collab. When you see a couple of veterinarians doing something together, chatting or venturing. Like I don't know everything about neurology, for instance. So I brought in 2 neurologists on one of my videos and we chatted about seizures. So I don't know everything about infectious disease. We talk about Lyme disease. So that also shows that you are a subject matter expert who can bring other subject matter experts to the table. I think that also helps build your community quickly too. You can build it really quickly, actually.
Right. Well, I did something, changing here a little bit the pace. I did something that Bill might like. I was thinking about questions. I have like 10 questions I wrote down that came from myself.
Gosh.
And then I was like, what if I asked ChatGPT what it would ask Adam Christman? Right? Like, what if I go to ChatGPT and write, if you had Adam Christman in front of you, what would you ask him? So I got like 5 things here. And I picked 2 that I thought were pretty smart, actually, coming from AI. I was like, and it's pretty good. It's good stuff.
Please tell me that there's 2 words there, and her name better be Mariah, last name Carey in there, because we better be talking about Mariah Carey. No?
Let me see. I can bring up something about Mariah Carey.
Okay.
I mean,
that's okay. Oh, I can.
I remember didn't she sing Happy Birthday to Michael Jordan?
Yes.
That's my favorite moment from her, because Michael Jordan.
Wait a minute. Stop the presses. Out of her entire career of Mariah Carey, that's what you're going to be talking about, is her singing Happy Birthday to him? My God.
Yeah. It's really. I'm sorry. Well,
on the other end of the spectrum, I've read half a dozen books about Michael Jordan, and I did not know that.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I think the words collided there with those 2, and I guess I don't dislike the Christmas songs. I like them every year. I don't do the whole like memes with her frozen and coming out of the freeze to sing and all that. I think that's kind of mean.
Yeah, I'll let her know. Thank you.
Yeah. Well. Here's a question that I thought was pretty smart from ChatGPT. How do we balance being authentic and professional? Like how do we balance that? I thought it was a pretty smart question, because you don't want to act goofy and look goofy and be all like, this is me and this is fun, as much as you don't want to like be like monotone and like, hi everybody, we're gonna learn about seizures. Like where's the balance in those 2?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a recipe that Adam Christman puts together. This is just from me, by the way, but I think that one is exactly what you just said. You got to have a personality for social media. Otherwise, you're just going to swipe away. You have to have inflection in your tone. That's easy. And you can work with somebody about that. How to be more sensitive or empathetic when you're talking about a sensitive topic versus more fun and goofy topics about silly, derpy dogs or whatever. So I think it matters on that. And you can still maintain professionalism, because your professionalism will be your content. So if it's something about, diabetes, for instance, or it could be stuff on like how to clean your dog's ears, there's the professional content associated with it. But then also you have to inject your personality in there. I have students that reach out to me. They say, I want to have my own personal brand, but there's so many videos about how to trim your dog's nails, how to trim your cat's nails. And I said, but no one has your voice. No one's going to do it the way you're going to tell it. So I want you to do it and describe it. So a little bit of that personality and the professionalism can go a long way. And that's how you stay true and authentic. The last thing I want to say about this is a really big component, everyone, is that do not follow clout. Do not go there because you want clicks and views and tractions. If you
That's
look at my
so
videos, I
that
have some that have a couple hundred, I have a few million, and I don't really care because it's true to who I am. If I'm making an impact on just one person in that video, then it's a home run. So staying true to yourself throughout your journey, especially going into mainstream media and social media, you have to do it. And one other thing is that have an attitude of gratitude. You know, we were just talking earlier, appreciate that you see that Adam Christman's a real, because that is really me. You know, I'm not being something phony or fake or pretentious because I don't think it'll
Mhm.
come across that way. And so being your true, unapologetic, authentic self when you're educating is a really great recipe for success.
I agree with you, and that's the whole purpose of FlareVet is to have that authenticity, and that what people are looking for nowadays. Is to have somebody they can relate to, but they can trust the information that's coming from that person, right? And that it's not easy that achieving that balance.
And
It's not.
I'll tell you, some of the best advice I ever got was I was trying to write about AI and vet med. I was really frustrated with how I was trying to write like everybody else. I was trying to be, I was trying to be more like Adam Christman than Bill Tancredi, and I'm not very good at being Adam Christman. And I talked to somebody who does coaching for this kind of stuff, and she said, "Well, since you're not getting anywhere with what you're doing, why don't you just be yourself and like be that kind of like grouchy, impatient, somewhat irascible, like just like that's who you are. So why not
Hmm.
just swing away with it?" And all of a sudden, I could like that. Obviously, like that came naturally to me, and that works for me. And it's not going to get me, a million views, but it feels a lot better.
Yes, it's all that matters.
Yeah.
All that matters. It's
And
good for you.
and I feel like there's so many different people in our field that maybe you'll have like a following, Bill, that is more like you and things like you, and somebody else,
Yeah.
like
They're all real grouchy.
you know and that's, I think,
Yeah.
other people might not get the message across to those people like you can, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
I think having
the-
diversity in media is important.
Sure. There's a
Totally.
place for positivity, and there's a place for, my version of things. And like I think there's enough room for both voices.
Totally.
100%.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I had a question, Dr. Chrisman. You've mentioned about like mainstream media, like how social media has done so much better with reaching people, educating, and kind of creating that bridge. Is there a roadmap to doing the same with mainstream media? I know we have shows out there, we have maybe appearances, but is there a roadmap to get a little more presence and more impact in mainstream media that we can kind of, as a community, contribute to that purpose so that we can get the message out there more?
Yeah, absolutely. There is a roadmap, and we're all on the correct roadmap. But who's not on the correct roadmap is mainstream media because they are so pet centric, not profession centric. And so media tends to spotlight pets rather than veterinarians. I'll say that one more time because they do.
Interesting.
It's really important. Media tends to spotlight pets rather than veterinarians because they want the feel good stories. They want like, oh my God, this is great. This dog was rescued. This one needs a home, or whatever it is. And there's limited understanding of the scope of what we really do. They honestly do not know what we do. They'll think of like the dogs and cats. Again, we talked earlier, they don't realize how much we protect people and public health and our food supply chain. So I think
people's mental health, we
health,
impact. Oh yeah.
They had no idea about that. So, but we're getting there. It's not just me. I mean, there's many that are trying to like break through to showcase stories. Great example, for instance, ABC Good Morning America, George Stephanopoulos and his wife, they just got a puppy. Amazing opportunity. Do you know they spent 11 minutes of airtime, 11 minutes of airing George's adorable puppy, adorable backstory, all that, but no education hook. What are some things that they should be worried about? Like, this puppy is licking everybody's faces live on TV. We know that there's some risks associated with that. What about crate training and behavior, vaccinations? So that way everyone's aligned now. We can go through the journey of what George is going through being a new puppy dad. So there's a missed opportunity that I see every now and then that we'll write in to be like, ooh, you should really be talking about this, So
I guess there might be a way to kind of bring more of the pet side of it and the feel good, just to hook people into the educational side of it. No, I mean,
Yeah, well, there's a stereotype for sure. There is a mainstream media stereotype that we have to always show the feel good side of pets. I get it, but we're veterinarians, we're scientists, and there's a lot of other great things that we could be showcasing them. Like they talked about the new 12-month injectable flea and tick. Let's talk about that. Why is that so interesting and unique? Wearable
Mhm.
technology, AI in vet med, lots of great things. Of course, there's great months. We're approaching National Disaster Preparedness Month. Not a single network right now, not a single one has anything out there about what you should do with your pets for a natural disaster. Doesn't that
Right.
mind boggle you? The fact that we're talking about, we have a major hurricane that's around and this is a hurricane
Yeah.
season. Yet, what should we know about our pets? We have all great veterinarians on the call here that we could be called in to provide some great education about that. So a lot of missed opportunities, but we're getting there. We got a huge gap to close. Social media, phenomenal job. Mainstream media, completely different.
That's
Interesting.
interesting.
You had a question, Bill?
No, I was just gonna say, like, there's all kinds of stuff. Like, to that end, even like there's Purina has a Purple Leash project.
Yes.
You talk about disaster relief. The Purple Leash project is for victims of domestic abuse to support what happens to the pets, right? Like often in times of, domestic abuse, there's animal abuse at the same time, but also, somebody's trying to get out of a bad situation. They stay because they don't want to leave their animals behind. So Purina's got this, Purple Leash project. And I think I was a vet for 11 years before I even heard of it. Right? Like we missed the opportunity to educate people that way. And we also missed the opportunity to kind of, sometimes I think we miss the opportunity to delight in the new puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we're so busy with the education that we whiff on the fun part.
Well, I love that you're talking about the Purple. I partnered with them.
I did not know that, actually.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice.
I think, like I said, there's all these like incredible programs out there that exist for these, like for the bad scenarios, and you don't know about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that's what we should. I mean, but please tell me about your partnership with the Purple Leash Project.
Yeah, so I've done their social media commercials for the Purple Leash Project, talking about like DV and the fact that majority of DV survivors do not go to these homes because their dogs are not allowed or their cats are not allowed. So Purina is working really well to educating about this, the importance of why they should be there, and also how to recognize abuse in the exam room. When we see dogs that are doing a little bit of hindering or hiding, if we go to do a physical exam and open up their mouths, that could be a red flag. And maybe the domestic violence abuse person is in that room and you just don't know it, and you don't know how to have those conversations. And Purina does a really good job of educating that on their website. I see that you have the website there, and that's great. I think all of you should check that out because a big advocate for what they're doing. It's really great work.
So we're coming down to a last few minutes here. I don't know if you have some final thoughts, Dr. Christman, or you wanted to kind of anything specific you wanted to share that you haven't been able to yet.
Well, I always say, because we're talking about media, I said the future of veterinary medicine and media isn't just about pets. It's about public health. It's about the great, wonderful, powerful, impactful stories that we do. And, if we do right, veterinarians won't just be the caregivers behind the scenes. That's my goal. We'll be the voices shaping the global conversation on health and well-being. And that's the goal that I want us to do. My goal, I said this when I received the AVMA Media Award, is that I want veterinarians and the veterinary profession to be right smack in the middle. Why are we the healthcare underdogs in mainstream media? We shouldn't be. We're just as up there with anything else that we do in healthcare in general. So I invite you all, and I need all of your help to do that, to help make sure that we elevate what we do to mainstream media. And so keep writing in suggestions and contacting mainstream media about ideas and stories that you have, even if it's your local story. By the way, if you have like a local news outlet and you have something that you want to showcase, it can get picked up by mainstream media really quickly, by the way. So reach out if you have connections with that. Start with that, because we do such really damn awesome work in this profession, and the whole world needs to see it.
That's a good point. I think any activities we have with the community, with the students, anything like that, at least have a little press release, a little,
Yep.
hey guys, we're doing this today. If you're interested, maybe we're not doing enough of that. That's a good point.
We're not. Adam is. The rest of us are clueless.
That's true. Huh. Well, that's
Yeah.
an idea for a symposium right there, huh?
Listen, it's free marketing and it's huge. You don't have to pay anybody to do it. They need the content. We need the leverage and the window into what we're doing. It's a home run for everyone. What does they say? No. So you go to somebody else. You go to a local newspaper, you go to a local radio station, and I will tell you that things get picked up quickly if one's doing well, and they'll capture that on their Facebook too, and that'll get shared and reshared or whatever. So yeah, always reach out to your local outlets. I'm telling you, they are hungry for this kind of content.
So we need to get louder and collaborate and, kind of, support each other out a little more and just for the purpose of having the right information out there. I think that's really the bottom line here.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, I don't want to take more of your time. We just reached the hour, so I wanted to really appreciate or thank you for joining us today. Congrats on the award. I had missed congratulating you. That's amazing. We're honored to have you here. Like Dave and Chris had said, like our first celebrity on the show. So
Please.
we're like I'm like blushing and
definitely true. Yeah.
So we're really honored to have you here, man. I feel like we've made a new friend.
Thank you. Always happy to help. Here for you if you need anything. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we'll see you guys next month. Thanks for joining. All right, bye.
Oh, we're done? Okay.
Yeah, we're done.
Awesome. Thank
we're
you
done
so
now.
much.
I didn't know there was something they were doing at the end there, but we can
No worries.
let's see. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me. This is wonderful. Great job, by the way.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us, and we'll do a lot more together in the future. I'm sure.
Happy to
help.
help.
All right. Good luck with the conference.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye.